Yeah.
Okay, now I see a big
are
red.
Also recorded.
There.
Awesome. Super. And we don't need a breakout room or anything like this. So let me get the chat back up on here so I can see everybody. All right, here we go. All right, well, happy Monday. I'm Kristen. I tutor reading and writing, and I got this together today with a lot of help from Ben and Sabrina to show some of the worksheets that I use for my students to help them get over learning hurdles. See, Sabrina, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Sabrina Sterling. I'm a technology instructional specialist in Camden County School System located in Southeast Georgia. I help teachers integrate technology into the classroom as well as use it to drive instruction. And I absolutely love differentiation of instruction for teachers and for students. And I'm excited to be here today.
Thanks, Sabrina. Ben, could you say hello?
Oh, hi, folks. So you're probably going to see this video on my channel, so you already know who I am.
There we go.
That's funny.
All right. And we have a couple other participants on also who have given great feedback in other prior sessions. I won't call you guys quite out by name because I know you're joining in, what do I say, a little bit unique situations, other things going on in the background. But I have chat up to see any messages that come through for y'all, and you're welcome to jump on at any time. So let me I will start sharing a window over here with one of the exercises on it. Okay. So I have a pop-up here. Don't share your entire screen or browser, just the tab. Okay, got it. Can everyone see this? Ben, Sabrina, can you guys see the sheet?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes.
And okay, super. All right. So this one's recognize your influence. I usually pull this out when I have a student who, actually there's a couple exercises here. There's just not as much of a confidence when I ask them what their interests are, what kind of materials they might like to read or write about, and they don't come up with a lot, to help them see kind of the influence and impact they have in their lives to boost up their confidence a little bit. So this one is a critical behavior that I recognized, which is something they saw going on that they didn't like or that bothered them. And then a story of how they changed the situation around. So those are the first two boxes here. And then at the end is just the result of the benefit. So basically, what was the positive outcome from the way that they kind of like stepped in, stepped up? Or sometimes it's not even that bold. Sometimes it's very quiet in the background. I've heard some interesting stories from students about more unique and quiet ways they've subtly influenced or turned around a situation. So I'd love to hear from everybody. One, if that seems to make any sense, what I just said, and then what you see on the screen. And the other thing I'm curious about is, I don't know, just your interpretation of it. If this seems like it'd be helpful or stressful for your type. And if there's any specific kind of like a cognitive function, like any NI, TI, et cetera, that you see this would play on.
I think it would be very helpful for students, especially if you straight up ask them, tell me something positive or tell me how you've overcome something, that may be difficult for them to start that conversation. However, being able to, especially if you have it in a format like this, or maybe share it with where they're interacting with the journal, it will allow them to reflect and on something specific, and then maybe look at that and address the positive. I think definitely would be helpful. And the language is, I'd like to think the language is simple enough too, but then, I'm speaking from the lens of a rational. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say for Olga, by rational, Sabrina means an NT.
NT. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this one, when I looked back on it, I thought that it might tap into a bit of like any TI, since it's a little bit specific of a category thing with it being positive influence. There's SI in here because there's story recollection. Yeah, Ben.
So I would think about this, that if you've got, say, an FE ego type for Olga, or an FJ in MBTI, that they, especially if they're like an extroverted FJ, that they're going to have a lot of influence anyway with people, and that's going to be one of their foci of attention, their relationships. I could see it with, in terms of answering the question, those that are sort of any ego types, especially the ENTP and ENFP, that they can sort of make that connection to them, and they'd be more likely to say it. Maybe there's certain types that wouldn't, like INTP wouldn't, because they're not like those types that are, those types that are more likely to have a 3 in their trifix. Enneagram 3 like be more like, well, I influence this people in this way and that way. Whereas other people that they've not got that. And I know that's the point of the exercise, but maybe like different wordings for different types, in like because like it's one of those things like influence. It's, I mean, I know what it means, but like there's different kinds of influence on people. Like say like so maybe that could be I don't know. It's tricky because I'm thinking about which types would have problems answering this, sort of shyer types.
Well, I could definitely say that for me, when I was a young student, I always preferred if teachers gave us advance notice for something like this. Having an idea that this is coming up would at least allow me to prepare before the class, or having a journal topic where there's plenty of time to start it, then go do something, and then come back and reflect on it later in the day. So as long as it wasn't expected within, say, 10 minutes, I was fine. Now I can do this now a little bit, a good bit better, because although, like I said, in the grand scheme, I think it's straightforward. I could certainly see how, as a younger student, as Ben said, the power and a positive influence. So well, I'm going to have to define influence. Exactly what does that mean? Did I influence how they think? Did I influence their actions? And how do I know it happened? So that's what I think, a little bit of time. Also, sort of borrowing on what he said, an example for students who are more concrete would definitely help. Something that is, lighthearted, so they can see it sort of filled out, actually taking that organizer and then having sort of the kid text in the boxes filled out would make them feel a little bit better, because there are going to be some people that want to, even though there's no right or wrong answers, they're going to want to get it right in the teacher's mind.
Yes, that would be my type with this exercise as a teenager. Be like, but what, like when you're naming the category, like, well, what kind of influence?
Right.
And like, to who? Because I have some students, when I first prompt them with this, they think it needs to be influence on a peer or somebody younger.
Mhm.
So they start, for the students that'll just kind of talk out loud about this, some of them really start with like, well, my baby cousin, like, you know, I've helped change their diapers before. They look at it more as like a caretaking or leading somebody less able. And then with those students, I have to suggest something like, you know, well, I know you have an older brother at home. I'm sure there's been plenty of times when you've affected the way that he does a thing, you know, and have helped out in some way. Or even your parents or a teacher. So yes, your good point about having some like pre-filled of these out. To help them expand, because these are that's a conversation I get to have in person with students.
Right.
But if someone was just going to find this, you know, online somewhere as a tool to use, yeah, having pre-filled samples would be helpful. Let's see. I was curious because when I wrote this, Ben, I'm glad you pointed out the FE thing, because this was designed to highlight mostly FE influences. The other two that I mentioned, like possibly NE and TI, I've had some INTP and ISTP students who it's really a push kind of to get this from them. But once I do, that's like a little bit of like a bright light goes off for them. That they do have like they do and they can continue to have a positive effect on the people around them. Because I don't think they always see themselves in that way. And especially at this age group where there's like a lot of peer, a lot of concern about what your peers think. That this is something that they really benefit from, but it takes something to coax them. I have to give them a lot of examples, and then along the lines of what you said, Sabrina, give them some time with it. So I might present it in class and see the dis-ease and be like, okay, like take this one home. Versus other students that really like light up and are like, oh, like especially the ENFP types, very much so, like, oh, I can. Yeah. Like, oh, I have a handful of stories. Do I just fill this out once?
Right.
Give me another form.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. If I just switch over on my screen, can you?
Vision planning worksheet. Looks like
you can see it. Okay. Yeah. So this is one I got like a ton of good feedback on last time. So I separated this out into 2 sheets.
Oh, I didn't see.
Can you see as I scroll?
I can't see it as you scroll. I could see it in Acrobat where it looked like it was on a tab, but have you opened it up in a brand new tab on your computer?
No, I think I just need to stop and reshare the screen when I switch tabs.
Okay. If it's in Acrobat, I'm wondering if you were to share just Adobe Acrobat as your screen. Is that an option for you to share?
I'm sharing a window, which is my Adobe Acrobat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, can see it now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little less loading than if I had the online versions.
Okay.
Okay, so this one I had squished into one worksheet, and it was like not the best. So this one I have spread out more into like the brainstorming part of it. I think it may have been Hannah last call that helped remind me of a lot of the kind of like goal and vision setting things and having a stronger distinction between brainstorming and then actually planning things out. So this first sheet is just brainstorming. Let me zoom on the text. Okay, I also try to work in some different wording on what's a vision or a goal. So that's why at the top here I have a vision, a goal, a destination, a feeling, a state of mind, an accomplishment. What's your dream? Use this space to brainstorm your vision. So my hope there was to expand this sheet out to have more appeal to the different types, to give just some of the ideas that this could be. I also, though, didn't want to give categories like a school project or a relationship or self-improvement. I wanted to keep it a little bit more broad than that. But I'm really quite unsure of the wording at the top under visioning. Ben, what do you think of it?
Right, that's visioning. It's one of those words that for like concrete types, it's like it sounds like a buzzword in marketing. Your TJ really comes through, Kristen, in these. Envisioning, but then you do explain it: a vision, a goal, a destination, a feeling, a state of mind, an accomplishment. What's your dream? Okay, that's well put. So yeah, I mean, well, maybe like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where would you like to be in 10 years?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Okay.
I agree. I was going to say, I was writing down, just as Ben said it, a picture just for the more concrete types of what or where you'd like to be in the future.
Yeah. Like it's like getting that NLP thing of like, what does it look like?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not.
Only because going back to the comments that had we had on making sure that things are concrete and it trying to address several types. I think vision might be still abstract to people, but picture is not, because we have pictures on the wall, but we don't have visions on the wall. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. I like that line a lot. Yeah. A picture of what or where you'd like to be in. And because this is teenagers, the time period would be quite a bit shorter. It's usually like 3 months or 6 months. Mm-hmm. Also because they like too big of a thing. And then in the next part, breaking it down to steps is like very overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Just in those teenage years. Mm-hmm. Where would you like to be in X under vision and perhaps brainstorming under pre-planning?
Yeah, that's a bit.
Okay,
even the term, like, I would try to look for like a replacement for the word brainstorm. Oh
my gosh! What? Okay.
Like,
why?
It depends though. I mean, something that Sabrina said is important when, like last week, where she said that if these are words, if these are phrases that students frequently do at school, like when Sabrina said that they will encounter the word strategies, even though I thought that all artisans might not, they don't think in terms of strategies. But if you're teaching that, and it's the same with if you're frequently teaching students things like brainstorming and mind maps, right. Then you are using terminology that they've been taught. Right. I don't know if they're taught brainstorming.
I would say in English language arts, it's a popular strategy to get kids to start thinking about what it is that they would like to do to prepare an essay, a debate, or a 5-paragraph topic. There's software called Inspiration that was very popular starting in the mid-90s on out. And basically what it is it lets you brainstorm in boxes and kind of go off in a nonlinear format. And then in one click, it will make it a hierarchy outline. And there's a lot of schools that still use that. And I want to say that there are a few free iterations of that in Google Docs. I'll send you some links to that, Christen, only because I think that might be something that could be helpful to you as well if you do this digitally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say that it's quite popular, at least from 3rd grade on up with English language arts teachers.
Yes, it is. It's to come up with a topic, or sometimes even a thesis.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a brainstorming process, even though you're going to try and make a strong argument with credible sources that you're going to spend quite a bit of time on. The initial process, though, of what is my big, strong statement that I'm going to create a 5-page paper off of, that starting point is still a brainstorming, mm-hmm. where there's no bad ideas. You fill out the whole
right.
paper.
Right.
But I think I will change that last sentence, though, around. Okay. And then this is can you see my screen scrolling there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is pre-planning. To choose one of the visions from above, what steps can you take to reach it? I have a really hard time here not being all TE with the imagine all the steps and write them here in any orders that come to mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. My secondary.
I had a hard time
like
here.
That too. Yeah.
It's not. This really is not supposed to be a linear process. It's supposed to be a little bit more. Actually, as I'm speaking now, I think I'm going to say it better. Like, imagine yourself kind of working on this, or in the process of making this a reality. And then it's like, what will you be doing? And then you're just supposed to populate the steps that it would take you to reach your dream in any order as they come to mind, because on the next sheet is where you actually lay them out in an order with time periods. So anything here before I scroll? Oh, and on this one too, it's just touching on, before I go down to the next page, the processes that I think this kind of gets a kid to tap into. I thought this tapped in most to NI, TE, and even a touch of FI.
Yeah, or in...
Because I think strong FI users will be able to identify something they really want.
Yeah, in terms of pre-planning, I would say, if we look at NI as, if we sort of correlate it to the social role, where it's like, when we see anyone who's like coordinating resources towards a long-term objective, we will like label that as NI, intuition as development, with TE, practical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it's and so that's part of the Keirsey coordinating, the coordinating half of strategic building.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got the Keirsey mentoring half of the diplomatic enabling. And so there you're about developing people and relationships. And so for all of the NJs, yes, it's all about that long range planning and development. And whilst all intuitives, those with an abstract preference, can do this, those that are MP or any ego tend to be, well, we could do this, could do that. And there's like loads of ideas, and rather than sticking to one, and it's almost like the grass is greener with this idea over here. And so, yes, based on what we see at the whole type level, I can say that because the NJs are best at this, therefore we know NI. It's reasonable to reason that yes, NI is involved in this, and as you said, planning and the steps,
Mm-hmm.
you're then starting to get into
Yep.
TE. So that's a long-winded way of saying, yes, you're right, Christen.
Yep. I was gonna say, yeah. When I, looking at this, I know that whenever I personally plan, I will do things somewhat globally, bump up. And the more experienced students are with something, the more, especially if they are an NITE, the more those steps, even though they're sort of in a nonlinear mode, the more of them will start to actually fall in somewhat of a reasonable linear progression, because they've got the experience behind them to know, well, in general, I need to handle this thing, this thing, this thing, this thing, and probably in this order, but they won't necessarily be locked into it. And that's one thing that I do like about that, although there's a little tiny part of me that would want to, those 2 blocks in the middle, I'd want to align those.
I purposely offset them.
Right, I was going to say, and I'm like, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so let it go.
They were actually, it was actually quite perfectly lined up when I first made this, because that's me. And then I was like, this is too structured though for them, supposedly not supposed to be in order yet.
Well, you know what I would do then, all sincerity, I would probably take and then change the look. I might make some of those curved and some of them, use some of the other geometric shapes that are in there so that you can actually still have a sense of symmetry, but then at the same time, the shape itself could represent a different thought process.
Yeah, or Christen, if you, because I think people looking at this, they're trying to like, is there a panel flow to this? And there's things in like graphic novels and comics about sometimes the artist doesn't get the panels right. Now, if you are trying to go for like a brainstorm thing, maybe it's like start here and the branch off and like a proper mind map thing. Because I think people can look at this and go, what we're supposed to do here? And then they see this thing in the bottom left with the dots and the frames and they're thinking, what the heck's going on here? Oh yeah, and I just noticed something. That when it says messages can only be seen by people in this call and are deleted after the call ends. And so that means anyone who writes anything good, like extra good from a public point of view, then, because I thought, oh, maybe would that be shown? Then maybe that could be commented on if it's for like public consumption. So how do we know when it's? So maybe Hannah, for example, if you have a point to make that would like to be read out for the public, you could maybe put for public or private, or like try to differ. It needs to be color coded. Maybe they need that little thing in there as an option, Google, if you're eavesdropping on us. So like,
yeah, like it says the messages are being recorded, but I also don't know though how it's going to show up. Is it going to show up as it is on my screen? Presumably, because I'm the one recording,
right.
And I do have the chat boxes open on, but I'm not sure. I am also jotting down Hannah's notes.
Yeah, what is that thing in the bottom left, Christen, with the dots? And
okay, yeah, Hannah, I got your right. Feedback that for the. It is just a random graphic that's there.
Yeah, you're indulging your tertiary NE there, Christen.
Okay, yeah, I see, because I saw Jeff's also was like, what the heck is going on here? Okay, so I'll think about doing maybe I liked the idea, Sabrina, of the different shapes, maybe in a different order to help show that visually that it could be a variety of things. All right, and then I'll go down to the second sheet here. Let me scroll out.
Going back to that, those shapes could also could be symbols for specific things. Like you could have if you added something like a heart shape in that, it might trigger them to think about people that are part of the process, and something that's like or a happy face and a light bulb, and then something that looks like a star. I mean, there's so many different things that have both a structural purpose and then a symbolic meaning behind it that I think could help trigger thoughts. What were we going to say, Ben?
I think, and like some younger NTs and maybe younger ISTPs, like if they see like a panel with a heart on it, it's like, that is this. I am not going anywhere near that. That's what their reaction.
Well, now you know what though. If they
next worksheet,
if they think their teacher's going to grade it, they might kind of think, well, okay, let me add a little something to this heart over here.
Well, there was a little bit of activity at Olga's end. Do you have anything to say, Olga, or was it just?
No, not really. I'm just listening.
Okay. Right. Right.
Okay, so then this is the second sheet then where the steps are put out in order.
There we go. Nice
Nice
symmetricality. Except the gap between the first column and the second column is slightly wider than between the second and the third.
Oh yeah, I am not a design person. Like, yeah, this is all to be perfected by a graphic designer. Yeah. So the spacing, you'll see on more than one of these, the spacing on things, but it is not exactly right. There was an introduction.
Yeah. I was just wondering if this was like a JP test, like on the side, where it's like to see which students would be, hey, this isn't level. I'm ticking the J box on this student.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that I was sitting, okay, right click. There, and I'm thinking what program to choose, because you can right click and you can align them, and then you can show the guidelines. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you
so.
Oh, and Jeff had a question pop up a couple minutes ago. He was saying, basically asking about an introduction to the context of this, and why or under what circumstances I would use this exercise for a student. So this is what I most commonly use because I'm doing private tutoring, and we usually have some kind of reading or writing goals we're trying to achieve. Sometimes that's directly in line with school. Sometimes it's supplemental to what they're doing in school. And when they're on breaks, like winter break, spring break, summer break, and they keep coming to me for lessons, this is when I will tack on something like this that doesn't have to be learning related. This can be something like a sports thing that they want to do. Sometimes it's travel. I have students that have wanted to travel, and they really like lay out a whole plan for how they can, save money. Then they have to convince their parents about it. They need to know if someone's going to go with them. So the point of this is to really just access that future planning mode for some of my students that that's not a natural thing that they do. So whether it's, that they don't dream really big, the beginning of this exercise helps them dream out a little bit more. And I'm sometimes very hands-on with that brainstorming process to push them to consider different categories of things that they want to focus on. And then also following through on the steps. Because there's some types that are full of ideas and then not on the follow through, and to see the pride in them when they actually plan something out. And I have like a solid couple weeks or 4 weeks time when I can do check-ins with them to help make sure they're hitting the mile markers that they line out for themselves here. Is great. It's really great to see that pride come through in a student, especially when they're not used to exercising these skills. I do use this sometimes though for assignments. Sometimes they don't have free range to do anything. Sometimes they need to choose an educational goal. And then for that part in the brainstorming, up at the top here, I would really encourage them that maybe, give or take, but like half and half. Half of the ideas are things that they've heard from their teachers, their parents, or someone else like that on what to work on. And the other half are strictly something they want to improve on or accomplish or achieve. And I purposely didn't number these boxes or give them date lines. kind of wanted to put a target date like on the bottom of each box, which would be like down here where they could fill in the date.
Right.
But I did leave them unnumbered because I thought it was structured enough that some people are going to go left to right and some people are going to go top to bottom.
Right. Absolutely.
And I wanted some freedom there.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, maybe from Sabrina, what do you think about having like a target date written on,
Well, yeah,
not just a line for them to fill in?
yeah, I think that would be great, especially for those that want to kind of isolate it out from the rest. It's like, this is all of the process to get to here, and it could be another graphic shape as well that sort of represents completion too.
Maybe an artisan point of view in this might be trying to get me to write this in boxes. They might just want a blank page and do what they want to do, and then
I considered that on the top here especially for the pre-planning portion, was that this might just all be a big white space.
Yeah.
What if you said to them in the instructions, or you can turn it over? And they would have that blank sheet on the back of that page.
Yeah, that's good.
Because I can remember teachers saying things like that years ago, that, because you definitely have some folks that, I don't have enough room. Go to the back side. You can just write on the back.
Yeah, and you can see it with the way some people brainstorm, like they go all over the place. And then I do that, and then they'll use, go right over that, get a different color out, go down the side.
Yeah. Thank goodness for highlighters, right? You can change all the colors.
Yeah, and for the NEs, like get yourself a 4-color pen.
Oh yeah. Oh well, what's funny is I have my 4-color pens, and they always symbolize something to what I'm doing. If they're either subjects or temperaments, whenever I'm working on a project. Yeah.
If it makes the idealist feel any better out there, I use green for the NFs. Now that's not to say that they're green as in naive.
No.
It's
Let's see, in True Colors, which is based on Keirsey, they use blue for the NFs because they think of its emotion. Water is emotional and fluid.
I'm not adapting to that. I am set into my colors, like red for Artisan and purple for Jeff wanted purple for the Artisans, but tough. I've got purple for the.
Well, wasn't Prince an artisan? So I think we could say purples would probably.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I reckon Prince would be good as like ISFP.
Yeah,
absolutely. 4 fixated.
Yes.
Probably like Barry.
Yeah.
Well, at least Barry or Thor. Bowie, rather.
I'd go red or orange for the artisans.
Yeah.
Yeah, oranges. Yeah, that's what I have. Orange for artisans.
Now that seems a bit. This one's more to my liking. There's a little bit. You got your space there.
Okay.
You don't like all these boxes, and it's like we know what, when you're presented with this, you know what you're doing, and you know what goes in each box.
Yeah. Conviction that I hold.
Yes. So this one.
Yeah, incident. The word incident might be a bit.
Yes, the wording. The wording on this is from a very adult exercise, and I have never put it down on paper. I've always just kind of explained it to students, and they kind of free draw on their paper whatever's for them. So this is basically just my internal notes. The way that I describe this per student is very, very much depends on their type. So this is one that, as I went through 50 versions of it, I was like, I feel like my internal notes are more clear.
I'll just say something with that word conviction. I remember it's slightly relevant, not completely relevant, but slightly. In that I remember there was something about social background in poor kids in Britain who were talking about when they took the 11 plus. Sabrina might have taken the 11 plus when she
back in 18. I took GCEs, A levels and O levels are what we had, and then I went to a a sixth form center after I finished
Right.
fifth form.
So I remember them saying that it might have been a little bit jokey that kids who are poor background, to them, conviction meant being banged up in prison.
Oh yeah, I would
And
imagine that would be the case.
So just that word conviction and like the vocabulary of kids in certain, so they gave that as an example of the 11 plus being in a kind of language that wasn't suitable for kids in a certain background. And so, but it's like everyone will use the word belief. So it's like getting the right kind of like language.
Right. There's a lot of research on that. It's basically a sort of a middle class bias to education because your teachers are middle class. And another really simple example is if you say cup is to saucer, cup is to table, cup is to floor, cup is to chair. Students who pick saucer, and if saucer is considered the correct answer, probably have cups that have saucers on it. But all kids could relate to a cup being an appropriate place for a cup to be on a table. So it just depends on, can you afford cups and saucers? Maybe not, but most people probably do have a table to put a cup on. So that is a
those like cultural biases.
Cultural bias, but it's also socioeconomic bias.
Definitely.
That's really probably that's the biggest. And then sometimes there's a correlation between the two, but
yeah, you're right, and so people have to think carefully about that in a multicultural society. And so, I mean, what you could do, Christen, is like it's a bit digressive, but I'll appeal to your tertiary NE. If you look at a book on English, it's got a lot of words in there, and where it gets you thinking in a more concrete way. And it's like there's a thing called Fowlers preferences, where it's prefer the Saxon to the Romance. And Sabrina was saying to me that she recognizes a lot of words which are Latin. And it's like those words that like, so conviction, does that sound like a Latin word?
Convictus.
Sabrina,
Convictus.
Yeah, and with the T-I-O-N at the end, makes you think, oh, that's like a Latin word. And generally sort of like going towards more, because generally in English, people still use, most of the words they use are like the original Anglo-Saxon linked words, and they tend to be more concrete. So even though English has a load of words in it from other languages, the words that are still used most often are still like your simple Anglo-Saxon words. And getting a book on English, such as, there's a longer one, but here's one. Hastings 10 synthesis, words we build it with one, kind of thing. Anyway, that is a slight digression, but yeah, language with the words that. So maybe I'll maybe put in maybe an asterisk. And then
so this
conviction, belief.
Oh, there wouldn't be an asterisk. This.
Yeah.
I said, this verbiage
somebody else
would not, a student would not set eyes on.
Yeah, right.
This is the way it is in my head, because I got this from this exercise from a like business personal development basically is what it's that is why that everything that you guys were saying about the verbiage and just how that's directly correlated with socioeconomic status is because of where this came from, and that's how it lives in my head.
Yeah, it's how you remind me, Christen, of Dario's book. Like Dario's book, 8 Keys of Self-Leadership, is written in that like business speak. But even more so, like, how do we like gain leverage in this situation? And like, like, are you?
But Jeff's comment, completely cracked me up.
Right, he's awesome.
It gives me credibility.
He's awesome.
This exercise for my artisan students is like, I love giving this to them. I'm like, what's something you like really believe in, something you would really stand up for? And they're like,
is there a part of you, Christen? Is there a part of you?
My NF, my idealist students, my like idealist students tend to have a rather easy time for this. And also the intellectuals, they're actually able to pull things out quite nicely on this one. It is the Artisans that this is the most, I get the most blank stares and have to like talk and give a lot of examples to help getting them to prompt their mind of like, oh, you know what? There are some things I feel strongly about.
I was going to say, independent.
Or I have acted very boldly at times in my life. I usually with them have to go into like the story mode of it, of like when you like, you acted very strongly, really like stood your ground or moved forward very boldly. And then have to backtrack into that usually stems from then like a strong belief, feeling or ideal that you hold.
Perhaps what you could do, Christen, is as an exercise for yourself is to do a version of all of these graphics aimed at a particular temperament, and then when you've got them all, then sort of like take bits from each one to like form one. Because like say you were doing this for an artisan, like I'm getting into a bit of stereotypology now, but something like incident that gave me street cred or something.
Ben, you scare me. I literally wrote that down here. Street cred. That is scary. Oh my gosh, you're so scared. This is like the third or fourth time you've done that, by the way. I'm just saying. It's like I write it down so I don't forget it, and then you say it, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, we're trying to think in artisan.
Yeah, street cred. I was gonna say, yeah, when was your rep? And when you've got to they worry about the rep and they worry about street cred.
Yeah, so
and respect.
And so if you did that, Christen, like 4 different versions for each one, and then you can and then when you come to do your one for all of them, it's like, okay, how does this like one for everybody compare to these 4 that would be based directly on a temperament? And then maybe like if you know a student, like if you just clock a student and it's like, oh, I know what temperament they are, then you could go to the one that is directly, that is worded in the language of the temperament, especially if it's an artisan.
That is how I see a handful of these. Like this one, I have actually 3 versions of wording worked out for it, and then I just decided to go ahead and present this one to you guys today. But for exactly what you're talking about, to try and appeal to it doesn't have to be the Artisans necessarily. It might be something like the NPs, just depending on what the worksheet is and what process I think.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
There's some of them.
I was just saying, like ENTP, that would be a hard one for an ENTP child to answer. Conviction that I hold. For an ENTP, that would be difficult because they don't really hold, because to them, they pride themselves on winning an argument from either side.
Right.
Like, even if you ask an adult ENTP, what convictions do you hold? It's like that most of the people are stupid. That's what they might say.
I was going to say, I'm always right. I'm always right. That's what they hold.
Tell me a story about how you proved an adult in your life wrong. Like that is
yeah. I'm always right. Yeah, that's
Yes, if you had an audience, which is great because this is something I don't think I've said yet in this gathering, is that this isn't always a pen and paper thing. This is also, this is a graphic, so a student could do this on their like phone on a touch screen. I do usually give my students the option to send a video recording or to make it a presentation. I've had kids that will get together, their family or like 2 friends, and present this to them and have them record it. And that's the way that they turn in the assignment to me. Is entertaining them, not necessarily expression convictions if you have an audience.
Yeah, because like they don't think like that. Like, because especially if they're STP,
they don't.
Like,
and they don't think, like I said, with the right, and that's not usually what I get. What I will usually get from them is a story. The story they can come up with. They can, like you said, like about the street cred, like they can recall a story like that, and then I usually have to backtrack then into what was some core thing there that really mattered to you that you were expressing or that was playing out.
And in fact, the story is the best answer because that will give you other information. Yeah. But I would just change conviction. I would just change conviction to belief, or
value.
Yeah,
belief. But belief is the.
It's not a word everyone uses nearly.
Nope. Let's see. Oh, something else you mentioned, Ben, too, with the making multiple versions of a worksheet. Maybe Sabrina, you can tell me how this might play out in the classroom. Is that if you're gonna, the way I would truly want to present this in a classroom of kids is to present to them with like this worksheet up like this, you know, on a screen, with at least 4 versions of it. I would love it if it was only 3 versions, just because as far as decision making goes, it'd be a little simpler, but I would do 4 versions of it and let them choose which one they use as their prompt, and also let them choose which way that they turn it in. But from an instructional standpoint and the burden then, now this isn't really a graded thing. This is kind of a, like I said, to help them get over a hurdle or a point. This is, most of these have a root of helping instill confidence in the kids.
I think that that's a great idea. There are a lot of activities where teachers will give students a choice. That goes back to also the importance of having an example, because what you don't want is the person who picks something that they think or perceive is overwhelming, or I should say they avoid something that they perceive as overwhelming, but could actually help them, will benefit from examples. Because if you see this, the conviction I hold and incident that gives me credibility, that's 2 things to fill out. However, that may not garner what you want. So you need that example that shows that it's not just 2 little blocks. It's 2 blocks that are, you know, that have a certain amount of text, or they have an image or something that conveys what I'm looking for. And then that way they can look and see, this is complete. All 4 of these are complete. Which one represents how I think? Boom. And then don't restrict them simply because you thought it was the best for the artisan or the guardian or whatever. And then you may end up finding that after you've done this a few times, that there are 2 that actually meet all 4 of their needs.
Also, Kristen, I think particularly when people are young, if you might ask them a belief that you hold, it's like, they might think, no, this is not a belief.
Ignore
this
all
is what
the
I
wording
know.
on this sheet.
Yeah. I know, but it's like you're passing the book. I know, but like it's a good excuse. It's like, but like there are certain things like when people get older, they know that a belief is a belief. It's like, no, these are things I know to be true. Right, and so maybe we need a word that covers both belief and facts. Because, you know, that's people, you know, when someone says something that they really agree with, they'll say, oh, that's facts.
Right.
So, and it's like,
okay,
you know what I mean?
I like that a lot. What I know to be true.
Yeah, something like that. Conviction or something you know to be true, yeah.
Ooh.
What do you live for? Yeah, I like that, Jeff.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great. That's great for artisans.
I also put hashtag facts on my notes. That was a good one, Ben.
Yeah, Shalina told me that one.
All right, let's see. Here is one. It's going to seem okay, this will be the last one that I really have ready to share. I think I showed this one towards the end last time. Okay, so this one is a habit that they want to improve on. I use this quite a bit with students. Usually something happens where they didn't have time to get their homework done. They, keep forgetting to pack their snacks. They're frazzled. Just something usually comes up where they're like, they have some day-to-day thing that is kind of interfering negatively with their life. So this is for them to choose whatever the habit is that they can make a very bite-sized commitment to. And I usually tell them this should be something that takes maybe no more than 5 minutes. It's just a quick switch in their life. And then this is just a week to week. They try to do it. If it's a little bit too cumbersome, they'll just try to do it 5 days out of the week. But if it really is just like a daily difference maker, then they'll do the full 7 days.
Mm-hmm. This would definitely be great for them with a couple of examples, because I'm trying to think of something offhand that kids this age would want to do.
Yep. So the biggest thing that ends up coming up is that they in trying to keep up with their homework, they'll have like a notebook for English class where they write down their English. Oh, this is my homework for English. And then in their math workbook, they write down like homework and dog ear the page. So they, especially in quite a few of my middle school students, they just don't have the habit down of having like one place where they're going to put everything that they need to do. So this usually comes up. I'm like, well, would your new habit be that you have to check every book every day? You need to check your English, your math, your this, your that. Do you want that to be a new habit? Can you see yourself doing that? Mm-hmm. Or would you like to have just like one sheet of notebook paper? I had a kid who literally, he's like, you know what, if I just keep a piece of paper in my pocket, I think that's fine. That's literally, he just like tore out a notebook paper, would write down every day what he needed to do, kept it in his pocket. Mm-hmm. And then that was like end of the day, he could get the paper out of his pocket and check and see what he had left to do. Other students want like they end up going the planner route. That's a little bit of like a bigger thing though, that's not like a micro habit. That's like, okay, I need a new planner that I have to have with me like all the time, kind of. And then sometimes the layout of a planner is rather complex. I
was just, that line, like my bite-sized commitment, I thought, well, that sounds a bit odd. But then I just thought, that could be used as a punchline for a joke. Like if someone like threatens somebody, that's my bite-sized commitment to you.
Yeah.
And then some of my kids, they'll use the notes thing on their phone. Mm-hmm. They'll just want to have their notebook and type it on there as they go through their day. Mm-hmm. So that's a common one, just Ben, when you said you just as far as any concrete examples, that losing track of assignments because they're keeping them in multiple places. Mm-hmm. Usually the bite-sized commitment is just choose a very simple place where you can write down all your assignments. Some of them choose to do it and they actually will use their calendar app because some schools are on Google Classroom and the kids have Google Calendars. So they'll choose to just make a daily, an event for the day where they just keep adding in their assignments. So these are the examples. The main 4 that I just gave would be
good.
I mean, like, I'd like give them planners, like, here's where you write it down and like old school.
Planner
out.
Yeah.
Well, and
turn them into ISTJs. Yeah. Just try to.
Well, and I was going to, have you heard of bullet journaling? Yeah, I was going to say you could also, if you gave them the like sort of an a composition book as their planner, they could actually, especially the more creative ones, take some of the calendar templates and make their own version of this. This is their start, but then they can sort of design it themselves and then have some cute ways of crossing things off.
Yeah, and also a lot of like the more artisan kids would like maybe want to decorate the front of it.
Right.
The artwork. I've seen that. And even like room for doodles as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say probably my kids that need this the least are the ones that love bullet journaling or that are use planners, and they I think because they're just in the habit of having a planner with them all the time, they have a set spot to write everything down. So I usually habit you want to change, bite-sized commitment, and then maybe another cloud with the tool you're going to use. Could you elaborate on tool, Hannah? Or if anyone else has, maybe I'm just not computing that right now. We're going to use.
Oh, the device, whether it's going to be the piece of paper or be more specific.
Oh, okay.
Like you said, because you mentioned the paper, the Google Notes, the calendar, the phone.
Yes.
Yeah. And then that way it's all part of it.
So
they, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be, for the, I mean, most kids that I end up using this with it really is just organizing their stuff. And sometimes it's as simple as in like 5th, 6th grade, sometimes kids go to they just have those giant binders that have all their subjects in it that they carry around. That's the way the schools set them up. And I have some kids where it's like they forget that binder more than, that's like a really huge problem to show up at school without any of your notebooks or anything. So for them, their kind of micro improvement is usually the night before to put it in their backpack or like lean it up against the door, some exit point where it's very hard for them to lose it, or not to lose it, but to forget it. So
I was just gonna say, if you want to keep bite-sized commitment, have a picture of a big mouth, and then
that'd be funny.
That would be funny.
And then in the middle of the mouth, it's like. And it's like maybe a picture of a kid with like hand across the heart, like taking the oath. Right, but this level up thing.
Yeah.
What like, is that a gaming term? Level up. Is that in enough common usage that all kids would know what that means? Level up.
Yeah, for teenagers, yes. Yeah. Through gaming, through, like leveling up in life is a bit of a catchphrasey type thing, maybe with slightly older kids, but I do see like teenagers on TikTok talking about that.
Okay.
But going up a level is also in most games.
Like, I know artisans don't like commitments, especially STPs. But that is a word that kids, because I remember hearing that word as a kid. Commitment, yeah.
Yeah, that was a word I did go back and forth on. But it really is like, this is a commitment to themselves.
Or,
and I don't check in
maybe promise, or younger kids especially might use the word promise. Yeah. Like, keep a promise. I promise to do this. And also, like, parents will teach younger children, like, you've got to keep your promises and that sort of thing.
I like that. And I do like the idea of having something about to find a tool, like another bubble for tool.
You'd have it maybe even if you did like a little toolbox that has a little blank in the spot.
Okay, I think those were the 4 that I wanted to share today. So I'll get the
That's really
presentation
cool.
off.
I said these are really cool. And I definitely see that as you kind of get to the point where you have things finessed, you can make the PDF version of that that's fillable, as well as the one that people are going to print out, and it will help children develop a variety of skills. Also, too, the fact that if you're you sound willing to let them explore the one that works best for them. Like I said, there are many times where you may find that you go from 4 to 3 or 2 simply because of student preferences, and students that sort of teeter between two temperaments in a sense, or have functions that are available. For example, the artisans and the guardian, not the artisans, the rationals and the guardians, the TJ types may all like a certain one a little bit better, which consolidates your need to have 2 different versions
Mm-hmm.
of a particular type. So
yeah, but
like
I like having,
mm-hmm.
Oh, it is. It is. And there, I mean, this is completely new for me to show them in more of a set format, because these are usually these are set exercises I've done, but I give them very free form because it's in dialogue.
Right.
And I'm usually live asking them, like, do you want to self-create something on paper? Do you want me to draw this out as we talk? Do you want to do a voice recording as I explain this so that you can process it later on your own? So it's my biggest interest is then, how do you translate that into the classroom for the most amount of kids?
Yeah.
Or to make this a toolkit that a teacher can pull out.
Yep.
And that's where it's like, okay, you need the paper version, you need a spoken explanation, and then, as you're pointing out today, examples then for them to see of some that other kids have completed. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I think
so I will end our recording here.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being on. And ending. I think. Stop.